Good morning, everybody. All the invited guests, my student friends. First of all, would like to thank the National Cyber Safety and Standards organizers for inviting me to speak to you on cyber safety and the associated. No, this is fine. It's fine. I'll get my time. Yeah. What I would do is, as you all know that cyber security and safety is an extremely important aspect in the current, especially in the current timelines. What with a lot of digital economy coming in, the government pushing for cashless services, and a lot of technology coming into this space. Obviously, there is also a lot of pressure on the systems to be secure enough. At this point of time, I wouldn't know what kind of mix I have here amongst the audience. So I would this entire presentation has 3 parts. We'll look at some basics of what cyber safety is all about, so that we come on the same page. Subsequent to that, we will see what the Indian context for cyber safety is about in a global reference. And finally, we will also see a proposition where a registry of cyber security experts is sought to be created. I'll come to those details at a little later time, but in order to see what exactly we are talking about, what is cyber safety, and look at some basics. We all know the web evolution. Way back in '93, there were very few websites. To today, and the evolution you can see, and today you have more than 1 billion websites. Many of them are secured, some of them are not, and there are a lot of issues concerning the safety. Moving further, the internet infrastructure in India, or for that matter anywhere in the world, has all these elements which you see here. This is a typical Indian context. So you have all those major ISPs at the center, the internet infrastructure with the services provided, and so on. Now this gives you a basic idea of how the internet infrastructure exists in this country. By no means this includes everything that's there, but it gives a representative idea. And today's the networks are pretty complex. They're large networks as backbone for connectivity. Essentially, there is an internet and an intranet and a perimeter network which connects this. There are multiple service providers, there are multiple technologies, and there are also a lot of technology-based interventions happening, ubiquitous computing everywhere, embedded computing, security, voice over IP, and so on. All these bring in their own challenges in terms of cyber safety and security. Moving further, the malicious code, as we call, which tends to corrupt systems, originates a large part in Asia, in Europe, in Canada, United States, Spain, Pakistan, and so on. And we need to look at this spread with certain concern, because a lot of technology manufacturers are also located in UK, US, and so on. Though there are proprietary systems, there are certain generic principles on which things can be addressed. When you look at the information security management, at the highest level, you have confidentiality, which is extremely important, integrity, availability, and authenticity. And the three pillars would be people, processes, and technology, which requires the security management to be done. What connects all this is the security policy at the highest level. Somebody needs to create the policies, the cyber laws, the IT laws, and so on. The regulatory compliance is extremely important. Several user awareness programs need to be conducted. Access control, security audits, incident response, encryptions, public key, firewalls, antivirus at the lowest level. So going from antivirus to security policies, there are several steps which are required. The government has several teams which looks at all these issues, and the information security is sought to be addressed. When you go further, we need to now having looked at some underlying factors which define the system's approach for cyber safety and security, we look at some basics, like what is cyber safety, what is threats, consequences of inaction, not doing something, cyber safety actions, cyber safety at home and work. Several people, we all have some personal computers and so on. And campus cyber safety services. I believe there are people here from institutions as well. So I thought of looking at the campus do's and don'ts, which are useful to study. Now, when you look at cyber safety per se, it's a very common term that we use to describe a set of practices, measures, and/or actions taken to protect personal information and personal computers from attacks. The minute you log on, you go onto the internet, your system, your computer is seen on the network. So there are associated problems which come up. So it's quite possible to take charge of your computer without you knowing, and there lies the challenge. A cyber safety program policy establishes that all devices connected to any organization, campus, whatever, electronic communications network must meet certain security standards. So therefore, it's the structure which is important in which you function so that your systems are protected. As part of this policy, campuses or organizations provide annual reports demonstrating their level of compliance. So it's something like a checklist, a security sheet, a data sheet, which you use to see how far your systems are protected. And there are services in place to help everyone meet the cyber safety standards. There are agencies outside, there are third-party services which help you to do that. Now, having done that, let's see some common cyber safety threats and the problems they can cause. We all must have heard of viruses. We all heard of hackers. Identity thieves, probably some of you must have heard of, and spywares. These are the 4 large-scale generic threats, cyber safety threats that we should be aware of. Viruses, you know, there are also certain patterns of data, certain programs. They infect the computers through email attachments, commonly through email attachments and file sharing. So if you do an FTP, you need to understand the associated problems. They delete files, attack other computers, and make your computer run slowly. These are some common things which you must have experienced while working with your own PCs. One infected computer can cause problems for all computers on the network. So that's the extent that can happen. Now, hackers, you have ethical hackers and you have hackers who do it for a purpose, do it as a service. There's a very thin line dividing the two, but then we need to understand who a hacker is. There are people who trespass into your systems from a remote location, and they may use your computer to send spam or viruses. Once they get hold of your computer, they use it to send they tend to send the viruses over the network to other systems and cause computer malfunctions. Identity thieves, they obtain unauthorized access, again, to your personal information, such as social security and financial account numbers. Routinely, you may be receiving messages on your mobile saying that don't share your this number, that number, and account numbers, and so on. So, there are people who are termed as identity thieves who steal this data on the network. They then use this information to commit crimes such as fraud and theft. So this is also very common. It keeps happening, but there are systems to mitigate those incidences. Then we have spyware is a software that piggybacks on programs you download. You have to be very careful on what you download when you go onto the internet. There are many things which excite you, there are protected sites, there are secure sites, there are not so secure sites, and you have to be vigilant on what you want to download and how secure those sites are from where you download those programs. Because there is spyware which attaches itself to the programs that you download, and they gather information about your online habits, transmit personal information without your knowledge. It may also cause a wide range of other computer malfunctions. So essentially, there are certain data patterns which sit on to what you download or sit on to your programs that you're working with and try and steal information. Now, there are obviously all these have to be addressed. There are methods of doing that. But we also need to understand the consequences of inaction. In addition to the risks identified on the earlier slide, you may face a number of other consequences if you fail to take action to protect personal information and your computer. the most common consequences would be loss of access to the campus computing network. If you are in a campus on a network, you may lose access to the network. Or you may lose access to your laptop, your personal computer.